once again join me in the beautiful landscape of Scotland. Today we've come back to Glen Prosen, which is a glen we've explored a fair bit in different places, different areas of it. We've had wee adventures and found some cool history. But today, today I'm going up this way, and I'm just hoping there's a path or a way I can get up the hill. I should have potentially gone up the hill further back where I parked. Last time I was in Glen Prosen, I actually went up that path, or up that direction there beyond those trees. Today I'm hoping to go actually up over these hills here, and I think I need to follow the tree line, and there's actually the remains of an old 1700's Croft. So this is one of these spontaneous adventures where I'm just going to have to try and cut my way left and right through the land to navigate over to this Croft, because there's no road directly to it, or there's no super easy way of getting to it. So I'm coming this total random route through the land here, and I just need to basically go up this direction. Once I get into the field at the other side of these trees, I should be sorted. I'm actually super out of breath because I've walked uphill constantly since I left my car. I've never even got a chance to catch my breath. I can actually see the moon is still out today in the sky as well. Wow, what an adventure, folks. Glen Prosen. Oh, there's actually a little truck around here, maybe gamekeepers. So we'll cut right up this way. I hope they're not shooting right now. That's the danger in these Scottish lands, folks. The gamekeepers are out shooting, potentially. So the croft that we're about to see today is called Nether Shiel. And even in the 1800s, it was actually a ruin. So it's cool to come today and see what we can see what's left and put it on the map, record it on the channel. Nether Shiel. Never seen before on the channel, and probably never on YouTube. And it's cool documenting what remains, even if it's just slight walls. We're often amazed by the amount of stuff we've found at these old crofts over the years. And I'm going up one of the old forwarder tracks here within the forest. Wow, what a madness. So check it out, folks, that's the forest section over that wall that we've just come up, and I'm glad that's over with. Like, that was probably the worst bit of the adventure. Now I've made it into the field, I need to follow this tree line basically all the way around, and then the croft should be at the far end. With this adventure I've had the help of the satellites and Google Earth. I was able to actually see like where the croft was in relation to the forest, in accordance with like the old maps from back in the olden days. So it's cool to bring a site like this to life and tell the story of history that's forgotten. So many years this would have been a thriving little farm. Look at the view behind me. This is Glen Prosen today, and it's amazing every week going to these different Scottish glens and keeping on telling different stories of their history. Little crofts and little communities almost forgotten from an ancient time. And it's so much fun going on these adventures and trying to piece together a route. Sometimes not even a clear road or path. And often the danger of like livestock and animals. Check this out, folks, there's a high bedrock seam that I've just climbed up. You can see it sticking out of the grass. And I think I can see my first remains of history up ahead. I'm so knackered for walking up these hills. Ever since I left my car, I've just been coming straight up this hill basically. And now we're so high in altitude, I can actually see Airlie Monument way in the distance. And it's featured on like a lot of my recent videos. Anyway, let's punch over this ridge. The history of this old croft, Nether Shiel, should actually be over the brow of the hill. So cool coming on these wee missions and adventures, trying to navigate the land, trying to get right onto the heart of the history, get the footage and then get back out of the place. It is mad. Look at these areas. Maybe they used to quarry the stone from this ridge here when they were building their little croft down over at the far side. Because some of these areas here look like they've been dug. Or like quarried could be the word. But you can see the bedrock must be near the surface here because there's so much of it like sticking out. It's quite a crazy area. I love it every week, exploring a wee bit of Scotland that I've never been before on a video, and it's always just something different, something cool. And here we are today, like this wee croft. never seen before on YouTube, and a lot of these crofts, because they're abandoned, they're just completely forgotten. Modern maps don't even show them. So it's cool to just have their name here stored on the video and then see what's left of the stonework and the brickwork, and imagine what families may have made the farm and settled here for years. This would be probably one of their fields that we're walking through now on the way down. Look at this here, folks. Here's a cool autumn feature of the land. It's a fungus. Let's take this tree branch away from it. Check that out. I'm sure it's called a fly, a garlic. And you do see them kicking about. Like this one here's on its side. There's a good few of them. And then look, there's these other ones here. Wow, look at the bedrock seam. This is what I thought was maybe like built, but from a distance it looked like it could be the first wall on the site. But now I'm seeing it up close. It'll be a natural stone kind of edge. Yeah, this is a mad little bit right here. Wow, look at all this quartz here, folks. What is even going on in the land? It's like a live find off, and we don't even know like what we are going to see here. Oh look, it's actually a memorial. Let's document the memorial. It must be for somebody's little lamb, or like, sorry, it's no for somebody's lamb. The person's name is Lamb, most likely. That's so cool to see and to document here on the video. Look, it must be a family. John 1977. Willie and Sheila Lamb. So there we go. We'll pay our respects as we walk past here. I can't believe the incredible quartz seam. Look, here's another one. Walker. Margaret and Eck Walkers down here with this mesh over it. So that's super cool to put those names on the video as we go by. It is an interesting bit, like I was going to say with the quartz. There's another bit actually higher up here, and the quartz forms naturally in the lands of Scotland. Yeah, look, there's loads of people here remembered on this hill. This must be an area people come to like scatter ashes and such like. And I had no idea. It's such a special place here, obviously, for so many people. And it's just part of the adventure today. We've navigated our way past it. Here's more of this natural quartz seam here up on the hill. Look at that, pure white, clear, smooth stone. And you get loads of that up in the area of Glen. And you get all different types. It's not always just white. You can see a grey layer within that one. Anyway, let's punch on round down at the croft that we're actually going to see in today's video. Wow, I can see loads of walls. So this is an ancient site, considering it was already ruined when the old map got made. Nether Shiel. And for the first time on the channel, we're overlooking it from this hilltop, and I can see loads of like what must have been stone buildings and outlines, and I'm sure around the corner of these trees there's even more like history and more buildings to be seen. This is so cool. Let's punch over and see what's left here on the wild hill. So check it out, folks. We've infiltrated the perimeter here of Nether Shiel, ancient croft and settlement, which is gone from modern maps. So let's see what lies within the land to be documented for the world to see from an ancient time and community here out on the hill. The first thing I'm seeing, this interesting little bit here in the land. It's like they maybe had something built up at this height. It's interesting. Some of the buildings could be so far gone it's hard to tell what they were. Other ones, it'll be a bit easier maybe if there's like certain features of like a chimney on a house or whatever. I can see the old wall lines. Some of this stuff's so far gone because of the years it's been abandoned. But this is an interesting bit here. Some of that could be piles of stones that they've actually moved off the land, but then it's just gotten covered up with grass. Because you've seen how stony the ground was on the way in here. They've not had much soil probably on top of the bedrock. This is a really ancient looking circle here. Maybe an old like animal enclosure or something. Wow, this is what I love on the channel, folks. Putting things like this on video that's never been seen. There's another big chunk of quartz. Sometimes they used that in their walls because there was just so much of it available. Wow, yeah, look at this. This is an interesting stone building. Just think how long ago these stones were placed in as part of a wall. Hundreds of years. probably 500 years at least. I think there's even more little buildings and things that we'll have to look at right over there. Wow, I love seeing this, and there's so many layers off into these old places. You can see this area here is kind of raised up, and then there's this lower bit. Who would even know like what has been going on in a place like this? It's like a 90-degree corner at that side, but then down here you can see it's curved, which makes me think it was most likely for the control of animals and livestock within that area there. Let's go over here and see what else we can find. Wow, there's so many little individual buildings and ruins. I'll go and take a look at that big bit, but I think if anything, the house may have been over at that side there. It's almost like this here has been steps or stairs potentially, but then it's maybe just the way the stones are. I thought they'd maybe been laid in at a certain time as a path through the farm for the farmer. Yeah, this area here is all raised up. What an interesting bit in the land this is right here. I wonder if they've got a water source or something under here, or a natural spring. Yeah, look at this, it's like a groove cut into the land. It's maybe just cut in naturally from the flow of water. That can often happen in Scotland as well. There's so much water in one area, it takes the earth and stuff away, but with this it's interesting to see. Has there been like a waterway or whatever for the original farm potentially, for their water supply, and then maybe all these stones and boulders have been tipped down into the hole. I'm going to look at the old map and see if I can see what this looks like on the old map. So the old map doesn't really show anything for this area, but I would say it's showing another little building up where we saw that first level area, and I said they may have been dumping their stones. I think there's been a wee building up there as well, and then there's been an enclosure where we saw the wall line. But then down here it looks like there's been two buildings here of rectangular form, and then it's like there's been another one over here somewhere. Apparently that there had a building next to it, judging from this. It's hard to know, folks. Let's have a wee look around the site on foot, boots on the ground, see what we make of it. I'll just look at the map now and again to make sure we're not missing any of the obvious history here on the site. Yeah, I think I've crossed the boundary wall into the main hub of the farm. It's been a fair old place, this. I'm going to have a look over there. On the way back I might go further up to make sure I'm not missing any of the history up there. What a crazy bit of land this is. Look at the size of the stones that they've used here. They've had no trouble at all moving these big stones to make their walls. But we saw that recently as well at another croft at Glen Prosen. It was even older and unnamed on the map. Yeah, look, here is one of those rectangular enclosures. This one's simply been a field. Look at the size of these stones here they've made the walls with, all the way around. They would have probably just dragged them with a few horses. Oh, there's more over there. Yeah, so kind of what it is, folks. I think literally the house and stuff may even be over there, as well as all these buildings here. This is super cool. I'm always in my element in a place like this, just looking around and uncovering the wee layers of the history within each little section of the farm. Or some of it might have not even been farm, but actually where the people lived. It's often the story of the community as well. It's cool to find in these places. Look at this, how at the edge of this wall line we've got this here. It's like a mound. It's like a separate mound in the land. I'm not sure what's been going on with that. That is interesting right there, folks. I was just looking round behind to make sure there's nothing else. There is obviously a lot of stonework on the outer wall lines, and I'm not really wanting to miss any details of the history. It's so much fun on this channel over the years, just every week coming to new things that we had never seen before, and each week you've got no idea that things are just like round the corner ready to be found. Like right now there's probably something just another mile further over that's just as cool. Scotland's just full of amazing little historical nuggets ready to be seen. So even on the old maps for the 1800s, there's no sign of a... Whoa, the wee bird! There's no sign of a road coming to this place. That's crazy. I was just about to do that clip, obviously. The wee bird must have been sitting right close and it just flew out. That sort of thing puts me off for a way to speak about a bit of history and an animal comes out and gives you a fright. Look at this, there's like a boggy area. That's why I've put the wellies on for today's evening. There's been a building up here at this side, and then look, there's been another one here. But then at the other side of this stone area, there's been a building at the far side. This is super cool, folks. I love, like, even a slight remains, it actually paints the picture of the history a bit better. If you came here and it was just a plain grass field, you wouldn't get an idea of the history. Look at this, you can see the rectangular outline, and it's probably been little sheds because it's had a central wall, and they've been quite small sheds, maybe for a particular type of animal or whatever that would have stayed here. And then you can see where the road must have come in. It must have come in up the glen through that lower section. And then it's like there's been a building here at this side, and then they've had access into this little area like a yard. You can see even today it's got this outer wall which seems to go right around the whole perimeter. Okay, we came through the wall at the top there. It is mad, like I'm trying to piece together with what I've seen on the old map and what I'm seeing with my eyes, and I'm thinking, was that further building just the one that we looked at up there? It's shown as a building on the old map, that stone's up there, so to me it just looked like an animal enclosure. But it is just maybe to the person's discretion back at that time that was also looking at the piles of stones. That's how ancient these sites are. They're dating back like pre-1700s and into the 1700s and things, and maybe even around the time of the Highland clearances and stuff is the sorts of times these places got burnt down and demolished. The people that maybe lived there got put off their land, the land given to rich local noblemen or whoever. Look at this, you can see the thickness of the original wall here, it's really thick. Unlike some of the sheds that I have seen, even from the 1700s and such like times, this one's built really strong. But once again, these do look like sheds rather than a house, I would say, for this particular building. But you can see the amount of stones, they've all just tumbled in and fallen in. The story of history almost forgotten. It almost just looks like a pile of stones out on a hill. I'll just walk over to this fence line. You can see the old path must have come around the side of this building. Wow, look at that for a scene of history. Originally these would have had limestone mortar, and that would have been baked up within a lime kiln here on site somewhere. And then over the years, the harsh weather and the rains, it just washes it out so easily that it ends up looking like this. And you would think it was dry stone construction, but you can actually tell from the fine finished stones that it's been a house rather than just like a wall or a perimeter wall. You can see the difference with these perimeter walls from the same era. They're all dry stone construction. Oh yeah, look, it comes around here and then it cuts 90° over. So this is a modern boundary over here. I'll take a look down the hill in case there's a mad wee like water wheel shed or something, but there's nothing like that shows on the map, so I very much doubt it. Let's have a look, look, there's the wee river. So right now we're in the heart of Nether Shiel, and it's amazing to see how much of these old buildings are here to tell the story. There is an interesting like ridge in the ground here. It's almost like there's been a little building, or for some reason it's piled up. So many years has passed since this was a place that it's hard to actually see it. This building's not shown on the map, but if you actually look here, there's a clear wall which is undocumented, and that pretty much shows it. Look, there's another clear wall going to here. So I'm thinking that there has actually been another building on the side of here. Maybe even just a small building like a horse's stable. Look, some of it's actually fallen down, and that shows how important it is to come and video this stuff. Built so long ago and almost forgotten. In a stormy day, this can just blow down, and the history, the way the stones are, just goes completely forgotten. And look at that, it's dry stone, but look how small some of these stones are. Now look how big some of the stones are. And they've been standing here for so long. It's just mad that it can be built that way. It's cool to video that. In different areas of Scotland, you get different dry stone dyke like techniques, and you can see it, the type of stones that's available to them and stuff. Yeah, so there's been a wee rectangular building here, which is undocumented on the map. Those two buildings are shown on the old map. This one here, no so much. But this enclosure here is shown on the map. So let's have a look at it. Wow, what a crazy wall. I'm always amazed by stuff like this. Just like the way it's, I've already said it down there, it's just stood for so long, perfectly built. And look, there is internal walls within this structure as well. So there could have been obviously little areas here for sorting out the sheep. And I think in this far corner here of the complex, well, this circular area, there's been more of a little building. So we'll go down and take a look at that. Wow, this is amazing. There's so much more here than I could have ever dreamed of. Look at this, folks, you can see this grass here, and that's bog grass, and that's because obviously for so many years now the site's been undrained, unmaintained, so it turns back to the original boglands that it probably was boglands before this farm was even made. So it's interesting to see that the nature always takes back over. Look at this, how at a certain point, look, there's a wee door coming into this site, and then the wall is perfect. This could be a later, see this here, this has just been stones that's been picked up, probably for like a gamekeeper's shooting, but like these outer walls will be original, I believe. And look at this, I think this is an original feature as well, this gap in the wall. And I actually saw this also in a croft when I was up Glen Esk. There was one of the areas at that old croft at Glen Esk that had a bit in the wall like that. You can see the difference as well with the original wall construction from these ancient sites compared to like a gamekeeper just building up the stones for a little hide. It's a complete different construction altogether. Yeah, any of these stones in the middle, you never know what's been going on in there. There's probably little pens and things, probably a lot of sheep, because some of these walls could even be on the site later than the like original farms and stuff like that. And then once we come out, imagine that coming out the actual door back in the days of the 1700s, there would have been another little building here. So let's see what remains of it. You can see this wall here, it gives you an idea of the corner of the building. Wow, this is an interesting building. Oh, is this the lime kiln then, folks? Check it out. We found it. I was saying that those walls would have had the limestone mortar made in a lime kiln on site. And look at this one. It's beautifully constructed because you can see the outside, the square construction, so it looks like a lot of these other buildings, but look on the inside. They've got literally the most beautiful, you can see how it slopes in, the stonework back in the day, and this would have probably put up with some ferocious temperatures. They didn't only use the lime kilns for getting their mortar, they also used the limestone to spread on the fields to increase their yields back in the day, to get the lime into the soil. So that's why all these crofts in Scotland had the wee lime kiln. It was like so purposeful back in the day. And limestone occurs naturally near the surface in the lands here, so they could go and have little surface quarries places, maybe even up where we've literally seen those holes up this hill. Anyway, I'll take a walk right around this because look, I was just thinking the sky is getting so grey. I don't want to get stuck in a rainstorm today. Look, on this building there's been a little outer couple of walls that used to stick out. And that's probably had a roof on it. So many years has passed that stuff builds up, the earth and the soil around it with the vegetation. And then this would have been the front of the lime kiln. You can imagine it, the circular form inside with the smoke coming out the front. You would have stocked up with the wood and whatever else, and then maybe broom or whatever else was growing out in these lands. And then you would put the limestone on the top and it would get baked at such a high temperature it would literally turn to like its powdered form. I'm pretty sure you could just smash it up and it would turn to powder. And even to this day they still spread lime on the fields, and some old buildings still need to have limestone mortar for their original, like if it's a listed building sometimes. Yeah, so look at this, there's been maybe like a track. I was trying to visualise where the croft had been. It looks like the outer wall's there, but there's actually a couple more buildings There's one right over here that I'm going to go to, but I think it looks so boggy. It's like a ditch coming down the middle here. On the map, there's a building right up next to the forest, and I'm thinking that'll be it there. Yeah, there's a fair old stream flowing down off this hill. Probably used by the original people here of the Croft, if it still came down here at the same point. So apparently this over here should be like a little single square enclosure, and then the one over there should be like a double square enclosure. So a lot of it's probably underneath those freshly fallen trees. See, the incredible thing, on the old maps, that's not even shown as a lime kiln. So when the land was surveyed, they never actually said it was a lime kiln. So it's cool on this site to actually show where the lime kiln had been, but also where that other little building had been at the other side of the big animal enclosure in the middle. Like, we've seen so much that wasn't even on the original map, which is amazing. And that's what I love about getting like boots on the ground, exploring these places. Like, see what you can see with your own eyes is often so amazing. And here's this little enclosure, folks. What do we have? More history of Scotland, hardly seen. Makes you wonder what they had this little enclosure up here for. See the interesting thing, look, there's been an entrance. This is the original entrance, and there's been walls here, like just normal walls, and I think that's been like an animal pen within this area. And then I think here it's been a little door going into a small shed, and you can see that here. Look, here's the rectangle of the little shed, and then there's the area that animals could like walk about in, and there would have been a little gate. So that's not shown on the old map either, and that's amazing. It brings this little building to life. It probably wasn't just for sheep or whatever, it could have been anything, like pigs. Who even knows what was going on? Maybe this was even where the chickens used to run about. Maybe it had like a bit of a net or a roof over the top of there. I think there's even more stones up at the top of this hill. Before we go and take a look at these next wall lines, we'll just punch up this way to the far perimeter of this farm. Yeah, a lot of these stones have probably tumbled in from the walls. It's amazing to see that would have had that wall line out the front. Wow, this site is coming to life. We're actually imagining now the full makeup and design of the farm back in the day. Every job had a purpose, just like, well, every building had a purpose for a job. Just like a modern farm, but you would have different buildings on a modern farm. You wouldn't have a lime kiln. But farmers do still like buy in lime and stuff to spread on fields. Yeah, what's this stone ridge up here? It maybe is just a pile of stones that's been taken off the fields. This was most likely one of their main fields here for the farm. And it still is grazing lands to this day for sheep and cows. Yes, look at this here, folks. This is another building for sure. Yeah, so I need to look back at the map, because I thought this one here is most likely the one that on the map it's shown as a single rectangle. It's almost like this one here could have been potentially where the house was. It's been an awful small little house if it has been. The house must have been one of those middle buildings that we looked at within the complex of buildings, because I don't think you would have your house this far away from your main farm. This is most likely maybe like what you would have as a barn out in a field. So maybe the animals could get shelter. If the weather was a bit harsher back, maybe in the winters and stuff back in the day, maybe each field had like a little barn like this. The one at the far side had the stone enclosure. This one looks like it's been more of a proper shed. Once again, it's the proper rectangular built shape with this big kind of pile of stones in the middle of it, which has maybe even been piled in there more recently. But I can see the clear shape of that, the finished stone, the edge of the wall as you would say. And it comes right along to here. This other stone's on top of it, so you can't see the fine edge of that, but it's certainly there. And that's another little nugget of this history. I'm going to look at the map though, because if this is this square building on the map, like that one in the middle is undocumented on the map. Wow folks, real history of Scotland, literally hundreds of years old. And we are just kind of stepping back in time as we observe it and try and imagine the farmers that kind of constructed it when they laid the stones there. It's amazing just thinking even how much farming's changed since those ancient times. The animals haven't changed, but the farming technology and stuff for the crops and that is just a completely different world. I wonder what the farmers from this era would say if they got plunked down in one of the modern tractors. They probably couldn't even get the thing fired up. But then maybe it's the same if you got a modern tractor driver and gave him the equipment of the guy back in the 1700s. They might not even be able to get the field ploughed or the crops sowed. So it's amazing how each of these generations operate within the means of their technologies and what's available to them. And we're lucky enough that cameras and things is a technology we can use to throw these places on the map and tell the story of them before they're forgotten forever. It's just amazing. Nether Shiel, and we're actually approaching now the next little building over here. So let's see what it's been, what type of animal may have been stored in this, or like what animal lived in there I should say. Look at this folks, we've made it to the edge of this next historical wonder, and I think there's been a proper building here built like a rectangle, and then once again look, it's had the animal enclosure out the front of it with a curved wall. And often animal enclosures had a curved wall so that the animals couldn't stand in the corner or hide in the corner. So it was shaped this way. They were limited as to areas that they could go and hide. And often it's amazing to see what's left. Each animal enclosure is kind of constructed differently here on the site. This is shown as two squares of equal size, but now I'm here, I can see that it's a proper building here that I'm looking at. And then this has certainly been just a normal wall, like a dry stone dike. And the old entrance has come in here, you can actually see it, there's the side stones. These ones have tumbled down in the middle of it. And then with a place like this, there would have been no other gate into it probably, it would have just been that one there. Let's have a look. Yeah, this has been a proper building here folks. That's been the front door going in there. And now look at it, we're on the outer edge of it here. It's often easier to see if you can kind of stand like this and see the 90-degree ends of it. So this has been another building. I think the house has definitely been over in the middle of the complex, and then these have been different buildings. Probably each field had an area with like this outer wall so they could control and sort out the animals. Probably that little enclosure we saw in the middle that wasn't on the map, it probably was for chickens or pigs I think, or a smaller animal. Whereas these ones, I'm not sure, this could have been anything. Maybe even, I said the horses down there, but this could have even been where they kept the horses. Sometimes horses were a key part of farming back in the days of Scotland. And it's amazing to see that. I've not actually seen a mill shed or like any way of a mill getting powered. Just think before this forest was here, like there could have been other little nuggets of history which were kind of wiped out at that time. Wow, sometimes these areas of Scotland and these farms can actually predate the earliest maps. These were constructed so long ago that there's other things or parts of them that is fully gone or abandoned. Sometimes just a ridge or a scar in the land that you wouldn't even think anything of nowadays. But wow, what an adventure it's been today to come here and put this on the video for the first time and to tell the story of this place before it is forgotten. Nether Shiel. Look at this, here's the head of like a deer. Check it out folks. Look at that folks, some folk would have that on their house wall. But that's what you get out here in the wild lands of Scotland. You get the stags roaming. Oh look, there's loads of them here. Oh look, there's loads of bones and stuff. Probably a stag has been killed up here or dead. Maybe even, I don't even know. It's hard to tell, but you can see what we've seen. Heads lying there folks. Yeah, look, yeah, there must have been cows and stuff in this field and sheep. Judging from like the hoof prints and stuff that I've seen and the cow pats that's lying about, we've been super lucky that we've been able to get in here, document all the history and the wee corners of each building, and then we've managed to get our way out of here. Well, we're not even out of here yet, what am I saying, but I've not seen any cows and stuff in this area. Look how wet and boggy the ground is. It's amazing, and it's such a good thing that I wore the wellies for this one, or else it would have been game over with the trainers. So if you look at this place on the map, you can't actually tell how steep the hills are really. Like at the other side, it looks like the road would be an easy way of getting here. You would just walk across, but after seeing it, there's a proper valley and it would be a nightmare to get down and back up. So I think I came the right way overall. Look, here's signs of moles. That's another thing you get here in the lands of Scotland. The moles kick about, making their way under the soil, under our feet right now. Look at this mushroom here. It's mad the different things that kick about in the lands. So often on the old maps, a building is shown as like a black, it's like filled in. If it's a rectangle, it's coloured in. And if it's just an enclosure or something, it's normally just a square. But I think with this one being in ruins by the time the map was made, that's why it wasn't clear which one of those had been the actual buildings or which one were the animal enclosures. And that's why today, I've just loved what I've seen. There was so much more on show here than what I could have even dreamed for. Getting to see all those areas with like the lime kiln and those wee buildings over there even, that must have been like the chicken coop. Just so much to see. And I think it was accurate on the old map with this stone outline up here. It probably has just been an animal enclosure. So look at this is the thing that we first looked at. And on the actual map, it is shown as being a proper 90-degree shaped bit, and that was what threw me, thinking it was a building. I started to think there had maybe been another building up there. But yeah, you can see it, it's been like an animal enclosure, because the ground isn't even levelled around here. Normally, if it had been like a house or whatever, it would be like properly levelled. You wouldn't have that big bit down in the corner. Look at this is cool. This is the original entrance in and out of the enclosure. Look, you can see the edge of the stones. These two have like fallen down in from the sides or whatever. But that is cool to see, because the wall's complete all the way around, and then you've got those two clear big stones. Wow, that is incredible scenes of Scotland today, folks. And maybe even before these buildings and houses were built, there could have been even older settlements and houses in this area. Scotland's history is so vast and ancient that we are just seeing like the layers of history left when they were building stone houses. And it is so cool. There could have been like people building wooden houses that's just rotted away now, and you would have no clue that they had even been there. This was the area up here that I thought, it looked like it had been levelled at a certain time, potentially even for an old wooden shed or whatever. Because compared to all the rest of this hill, there's a decent bit here. But maybe they had dumped stones in a bit like this, or maybe they quarried their limestone from up here. Yeah, this area here is interesting to me. It's like it has been levelled, but who would know what they'd even been doing? Such a long time ago. It's just fun to theorise and to throw it on video and to show what's there before it is gone and forgotten forever. Because there isn't even a road to it, and again, most folk wouldn't even be coming all the way around to see a thing like this. It's cool to put it on video, easy for the world to see, and so interesting. Real historical places in Scotland could have even been cleared out on the Highland clearances kind of time frame or thereabouts, or it could have been anything. Sometimes it was just generations of families died out in these places, were naturally just kind of abandoned or bought over by more local farmers who only wanted the land but not the houses. It can just vary, but it's cool to see what's left of the walls, the brickwork. The stones tell the story of history here on the channel. So before I come off the highest point of today's walk, I just thought I would show you this view, looking on down Glen Prosen all the way to like Ailey Monument in the far distance. It's just so beautiful with the autumn colours on some of the trees. And I'm basically just punching down here in a straight line. Basically where the dry stone dike goes all the way down the hill, I just hate to go down there, and then my track leads on the other side of these fir trees. So it's a mad adventure. It was harder climbing up this section, but going down it shouldn't be as bad. I've just had to climb back up this side of here, and you can see it, it's like mad bedrock stone just right up here on the surface. It's a crazy crag here in the land. Mission update, folks. It might be nothing, but it could be something worth recording. But look, you can see a circle in the ground there. It's like a circle that's been dug out in the middle, so I'm not sure what that has been. Like, so many years has passed in these lands, the history is just ancient, and often a circle like that or a mound could have been anything originally, maybe a wee building. Look at this, it's almost like there's been an entrance. For sure this has been built here, so it just shows this is another maybe little piece of today's puzzle. Or maybe this was a different thing when they were actually quarrying the stone off this hill for some reason. Because there is some bits of this hill that look like it's been quarried, but this looks like it's been a wee shed. You can actually see, like, I'll walk around the outer perimeter of this place. Like, all the way around. This is crazy, folks. They keep finding wee nuggets, because I walked up past this on the way in up there, but I was so gassed out I could hardly even speak to the camera. Yeah, this is amazing. Look, we're at the other end of the building. And what else may have been here on this little plinth of land? It could even be history from before the times of the Croft, for all we know. Look, it's like there's been a wee entranceway maybe going in there, or could even be worn just for the sheep, some stuff like that. But there's definitely been things built. Yeah, look, here's another one. This isn't even on the old maps at all, but for sure, look at this. You can see the remains of a wall. Look, it leads along here. We're walking the walls here. And then look, it comes to here. They're quite narrow, but for sure, they're definitely built. The whole area in the land, once you start looking at it a little bit closer, you realise that there's so much built. Folk would probably argue, oh, that's no been anything, but I guarantee you, if you scraped all the earth away, you would see the perfect construction of these walls with the entranceways and such like. Most likely for farming, but on a hill that's so stony, you could say it may have been quarry related. And look at the way these dry stone walls mark the perimeter of the land. At one time, so much stones were cleared from lands like this for agriculture. You can just imagine how it must have originally been. So stony and rocky. It's hard to tell with some of these hills, like if they've been hill forts or whatnot back in ancient times. There's a lot of hill forts in Scotland, and there is little buildings and settlements within areas like that, but when you can't actually see the hill, it's too hard to judge. But it's only recently I'm finding out more about that prehistory and learning more about the subject, and it's interesting how much in Scotland is just all around. And we've even found recently on the channel those old Bronze Age burial mounds and such like. And even some of the hill forts we've documented, they're just random. You wouldn't even expect there to be such places, but often hill forts were built in areas where they were overlooking the land. And sometimes they thought, like, if the land had been invaded, the people of the area would have come up and been safe within their hill fort. And then once the danger passed, they would have then gone back down to their lands. And that's why an area like that would have been prime to have a wee settlement or something on a hill. But there's no enough there to say that's what it is. But it's cool to tell the story of prehistory Britain, even on these old Croft videos. In Scotland, there's so many layers of history from different time periods. It's mad. Like, thousands of years people have settled in the same sort of areas, using the different technologies and living in different cultures. It's just mad, like, to think about it. So look at this, folks. This is what the bottom of the hill looks like. You can see the bottom of the dry stone dyke. I've just basically come straight down the forwarder track, and it's been pretty overgrown in general. This is actually a relief now when it's just like this. It's hardly overgrown at all at this point. So I'm nearly back down to the track. What a mad adventure that's been. I'm overheating. Today it's been quite warm, like, temperatures in Scotland. Even yesterday it was the same. You never know what to wear for, like, what conditions it's going to be. And like today there was even a threat of the rain coming on at one point. I thought I need to get on with it. Wow, I think I'm at the wrong side here. Some parts of these tracks are just so overgrown. We're in the wildest of Glen Prosen. This is the nearest thing to a main road up to that Croft. Yes, folks, we've made it down the hill to roughly where we started the video. And it's cool over the years to keep documenting more of Glen Prosen and all the Scottish glens, and we can piece together the history and name each of these little abandoned crofts and where they've been. Because as you can see, some of these ones are just so far gone that they're almost deleted off the map and out of human memory. In this channel we're going to go to some of those ones and see what's left and tell their story and remember it forever on the channel here. That's the little crofts that shaped these beautiful glens and lands of Scotland originally, and it's cool to explore them, and it's cool to try and navigate to them and find them. And it's been a fun one today. But yeah, I'm pretty much back to the track where I started the video, so I'll end this one here. Thanks very much for watching. and I'll be back soon with the next one, wherever I end up going.